Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Talk with the Michigan man and the Chicago kid. Censors tried to keep us off last week. Unfortunately, the network, the executives said you just can't do it. You're too much fun. You're taken away from ESPN. You've got 50 million viewers, 100 million worldwide, and we said, you know what? We're going to do it anyway. So here we are in the back of a van in the middle of a deserted forest where nobody can find us, but we're coming at you through the airwaves. Chicago kid here. Michigan man, are you around?
I'm here, boss.
Oh, dear Lord, he showed up for work today. We can all rest easier now. Here we are. We've got a lot to talk about. Lots of happening in this wonderful world of sports that we call home. And we're gonna start. We figured we start this episode off with a bit of a game. And in that game, hope you get a few laughs out of it. It's the NFL Top 10 Draft Bus as we see it in our eyes. You may have your own. You may think that some of ours aren't that bad. You may disagree, and that's fine. That's what the comments section is for, people. Agree, disagree, suggest, or get the hell out. It's our show. The executives already looking at me like they're going to take us off the air. I don't even know how they got in this van. Anyway, let's get right into it here. Michigan man, I feel like we should alternate here in the top 10. You do one, I'll do one, so on and so forth until the end of time. And with that, I bow to you, good sir, being of older age and more knowledge, clearly. Let's get your first NFL biggest draft bust.
Okay, well, Chicago kid, I think I'm going to take one of these from that's true to my heart. And a lot of from Michigan probably will agree with me. My number one draft bust in my eyes is quarterback Joey Harrington from
Oh,
University of Oregon.
he was a duck.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what pick that Detroit used to get him and what year?
I believe it was 2000. I believe it was 2000. Probably 2002, 2003. I could be wrong.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
It's been a while. I think he was the second pick overall, I believe, in that year's draft.
Made sense. That sounds about right.
I could be wrong. Of course, it's been a while.
Right.
But
Very
yeah,
long time.
yeah. Joey Blue Sky in Detroit thought he was going to be able to turn the team around. Matt Millen, who right now is fighting bone marrow cancer as we speak. Hopefully everything is going all right with him, even though I had ill will against him. But finding out that he's sick, I forgive him for what darkness he led to my franchise. But anyways, yeah, Harrington came in and thought he would become the man. Whether it was Detroit not being able to pick, realized that he wasn't the one guy they should have drafted. Maybe there were other picks that would have produced a lot more, or he just didn't have an offensive line to protect him.
Was
But
it injuries that led to his demise or just poor decision making?
what was that?
What was more towards his downfall? Was it injuries or just poor decision making or
It was probably inconsistency, poor decision making. Probably, that's when they had Steve Mariucci as the head coach, and I think they ended up
Mooch?
at two sides of the locker room fighting against each other. So it got to the point where there were a lot of dissatisfied players in the locker room wanting the team to go one way, one team go the other. So they weren't gelling as a unit. So it got to the point where they did the best they could. Joey Harrington ended up going to Miami and actually beat Detroit a couple of years later when he was a member of the Miami Dolphins on Thanksgiving. After that, he bounced around, was a backup in New Orleans, and then after that, he finally quit, retired from football and ended up becoming a radio announcer for the Oregon Ducks, and then eventually joined the Pac-12 network.
Oh, wow.
The Pac-12 network.
So not all the way removed from football.
Right.
But I do remember Joey Blue Skies, and I remember him playing piano during one of the little sideshow commercial fillers on Monday Night Football, I believe. I found that really interesting, that he was also a talented musician. But I guess it just didn't work out for Joey in Detroit. With that, I will give you my number one draft bust. A young man by the name of Jason Smith, out of Baylor, second overall pick in 2009 by the St. Louis Rams. Only 1 year did he play as a starter. St. Louis at the time needed a tackle to complete their rebuild that they were doing. The only problem was his very slow transition to pro football and an injury list that was ever growing and quick appeared to it caused him to be traded in 2012 to the New York Jets, where he never started a game again ever in his career. I vaguely remember this happening, him being drafted. Again, I didn't pay much attention to the Rams at the time. Obviously, the only time the Rams got really hot was when Kurt Warner. It was the 1 yard game that the Titans lost to Kurt Warner and his magical Rams with the unicorn horn. But that's a story for another time. But that was my number one pick. I vaguely remember this happening. NFL and coaches of the Rams at the time, back when they were still in St. Louis, just saying that he didn't adjust from college ball to pro ball, and that's a big thing I look for when watching the draft, so on and so forth. You can kind of tell when you look at the kids in the eye and tell them which of them think this is a joyride, and I'm just going to make tons of cash, and I don't have to play ball, and I think Jared Goff found that out very quickly after he got drafted, because he's become more serious and a better football player, but at the same time it just appeared that he wasn't ready. I could be wrong now, but I do believe, and Vince, you can speak to this if you like to. It appears that when Todd Gurley was on last year, Jared Goff did do some pretty amazing things. It seemed to me like he was trying to do too much at times, always trying to throw the deep ball that would get him intercepted or just fall short or too far. And Gurley was the one who really kind of saved him and picked up that slack to make the team look amazing. And I'm getting a lot of that from Dallas, as Dak Prescott really doesn't have a game when Zeke is not there. Vince, am I wrong with this? Or, do you get any of that at all? Do you get any of that feedback at all?
About Todd Gurley, about Jared Goff?
Yeah, and even more importantly in Dallas with Dak Prescott after Zeke had to serve his suspension last year.
Right. Usually, running backs are a quarterback's best friend. They're always there to depend on, especially if they need an extra blocker, if they're going for play action pass or the deep ball. Once you lose your star running back, it's kind of tough because if somebody's going to blitz, maybe you could check down to another play to where you could throw it to the little screen pass to running back, or get it off to him, depending on what the defense decides to do. So, yeah, being a Lions fan, not having that number one running back for years and years, it's tough when you need to try to run the ball and you only become one-dimensional. More teams are going to play more zone, knowing that you're going to throw.
Right. I just thought it was very funny and interesting in Dallas that when Zeke wasn't there, Dak just couldn't win. In those 4 games, he was just a stumbling, bumbling mess. So, Zeke is obviously very good at his position, plays it very well, but you have to hope and pray that running backs take a lot of hits, far more than wide receivers do, when it's carrying the ball, blocking for the quarterback, as you stated, going out for screen passes. These running backs get blown up now. They get hit really hard. So if I'm Dak Prescott, and even Jared Goff, I'm hoping and praying that these running backs don't get injured, because then people will see how truly bad or not as good as my ratings showed when I was drafted. But I mean, I guess that'll just show with time, I guess. But here, ready for your second pick here. Second pick of draft busts.
Okay, I'm going to go with the NFL draft 1999 first round pick number 1 from the University of Kentucky, quarterback Tim Couch.
Oh, there he was. You knew, folks, he had to show up on this list somehow. Tim, the layback Couch. Vince, take us on a ride through memory lane about what made Tim Couch the huge bust, and probably the funniest bust that there has ever been.
Well, this was Cleveland's first pick since they were returning to the NFL as an expansion team when the original team left in '96 to Baltimore. Couch took over for Ty Detmer as the team's starting quarterback.
Yep.
In the second game of his rookie season, he spent 5 seasons as the starting quarterback for Cleveland, eventually facing competition from journeyman backup quarterback Kelly Holcomb during its final 2 seasons.
Yes.
It got to the point where fans really got tired of Couch, and I've heard rumors and that when they would be playing home games, and every time that Couch would get sacked, his own fans would cheer for getting hurt.
Yeah, that's kind of when you've run your course.
Right.
When the milk's hit the expiration date.
He spent time on the practice squad for Green Bay in 2004, and then the practice squad for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I just recently found out that he's going to be, as of April 11th, 2018, he will be announcing Browns preseason games with Jay Crawford.
Oh, this will be fantastic for everyone in Cleveland to relive this every single year. To hear Couch's voice in their ears as they watch the Browns try to struggle back from the end of the bottom of the barrel. That might be a bad omen, I feel. I mean, how else are you to look at it? But I think Tim Couch, if we were doing this in order, I think Tim Couch would be number 2 or number 1 on this list. He always is, and it's always fun to poke fun, but I mean, talk about a guy who just folded like a cheap card table. Just unbelievable. But in this one, I'll go to my number 2 pick here, and this might be everybody's favorite charity case, a newer pick. In the last 5 years, I have to go with that lovely long-haired kid out of Baylor, 2nd overall in 2012, to the Washington Redskins, RG3. You know his name, you know his number, you hate how he played. 1 Pro Bowl, 2 years as a starter. The injuries and the rift he had with the coaching staff led to his release in 2016. He went to Cleveland, was a Brown, but played in just 5 games due to a shoulder injury. He is now a Raven in Baltimore after missing all of the 2017 season. Vince, will he ever start again, see any playing time, or ever do anything positive for any of the 32 teams?
I think he'll probably be a career backup as of now, because Baltimore has drafted their heir apparent in this year's draft to replace Joe Flacco.
Yes.
So more likely he'll be a third stringer, could be possibly a cap casualty, or also could be let go during this upcoming preseason.
Yes.
So only time will tell. Hopefully, Mr. RG3 was smart with his money, knowing that maybe his NFL career may not be, come to fruition like he thought it would.
It could even end in the preseason. Even before
Right.
the preseason, Baltimore could cut him. I mean, the kid's got speed. It's just he can't stay healthy in some instances, and it's just I feel sorry for him, but also at the same time, to come in with that confidence and arrogance, and these older guys, these workhorses, these defensive workhorses in the NFL don't take kindly to that, to hot young kids in college thinking it's going to be that easy ride of college football. And yes, folks, I'll say it again, it is an easy ride in college football. Most of these kids do not go pro. Sorry to break it to you. But anyway, we'll move on to our number 3 picks. Vince, go ahead and hit me with your number 3 pick.
Okay, I'm actually going to go with, we actually have my third pick actually has a birthday today.
Uh-oh.
Actually born on today in May 23rd, 1981. So that would make him 37 years old.
Happy birthday to the birthday kid.
Well, he was drafted in 2003, round 1, pick number 2, from University, Michigan State University, actually.
A Spartan.
Wide receiver Charles Rogers.
Oh, Charlie Rogers. Let's get some background on that.
Well, he was also named one of the biggest NFL busts. He only played 15 games, started 9, had 36 receptions, had 440 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. He broke his clavicle in preseason, and actually started getting addicted got addicted to painkillers. He was suspended a few times.
Wow.
Actually had to give back some of the bonuses that the about 10 million of the 14.2 million the Lions gave him in bonuses. He was released in 2006. Tried out for Miami, New England, and Tampa. Couldn't do it. Couldn't make the team, and he ended up in jail a few times. And as far as I know, as far as I've known, he's actually living in Florida as of now, detailing cars.
Oh wow, quite a different career path.
It is.
I'm sure he makes those cars shine.
That's right. Instead of catching footballs, he's buffing cars.
And catching other balls in his mouth. But that's another story, and our people's sexuality is that of their own. You can't judge them for that. But anyway, that was a very good one. A very good one. That one's going to be hard to top, but I'm going to take a shot here. 3rd overall pick to Tennessee, out of Texas, Vince Young. Played in Tennessee and in Philadelphia. Made 2 Pro Bowls, 4 starting seasons. Rookie year, throws 13 interceptions to 12 touchdowns. But got off to a promising start here in Tennessee with several fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. His second year in Tennessee, he threw 17 interceptions to 9 touchdowns. In 2012, 2013, and 2014, he signed with all different NFL teams, but was cut before the start of each season. He signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders in 2017, but was cut before ever playing a game for them. How does someone who played in a national championship, Vince, run into that trouble in the NFL.
Well, I also heard he had a loaded gun with him one time when he was stopped by police. I think he ran a stop sign or something all to that altercation. So, you know, who's to say, why he had the firearm? But still, I guess he wasn't more of a he wasn't a pocket passer in the NFL. He was more of like a Michael Vick or RG3. He couldn't throw the long ball.
He was always a scrambler.
Right, and also, if you didn't know, he actually announced one of the Titans picks this year in this year's draft.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, he misspelled Harold Landry's name and called him Honor.
Oh, see, well, I mean, you don't even have to be smart to call out, people's names in the NFL draft. You could get through with a kindergarten education, apparently, or less than that.
Right. Oh, and speaking of the NFL draft, Nashville has been awarded the NFL draft for next year.
And we will all be attending that with smiles and bells on our shoes and become dancing fools when we get to see our teams pick in that draft. Thank the good Lord, it will be here in Tennessee. Can't wait for it, and thank you, Vince, for bringing that up and sharing that with everyone. I was going to take the honor of that later, but when better than now? But I will. Let's go to your fourth pick, Vince.
All right, I'm delving into another early round pick, 2007, round one, pick one, quarterback out of LSU, Jamarcus Russell.
Oh yes, yes indeed. Take us on a brief history of that, Vince. We got to know why he was a bust.
Okay, he played 3 seasons with the Oakland Raiders, compiling a 7-18 record as a starter.
Oh Lord.
He was released in 2000. He was released in 2010, so he only played 3 years with the Oakland Raiders. Apparently, he had trouble concentrating during questioning. When people asked him about his, mental capability and everything like that. So he didn't, he didn't get the message.
Apparently not.
But he did later get addicted to purple drink, which basically is cocaine and or liquid codeine. Sorry, not codeine. Codeine syrup and grape
Kool-Aid?
Grape Kool-Aid, apparently.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love me some purple drink. In fact, I'm drinking one right now.
Actually, no. It's actually just prescription strength cough syrup.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, maybe that's why I have so many problems.
I thought he mixed it, but yeah, it contains codeine.
And that will definitely get you caught.
Mixed it with Sprite or Mountain Dew. Apparently, apparently you throw a Jolly Rancher in there to increase the sweetness.
Oh yeah, of course. That's what everybody needs with their codeine.
Of course.
I mean, that's what I'm concerned about when I'm getting my purple drink up in the club. But yeah, I mean, I remember very little of his Oakland career. I don't follow the Raiders that much, but have you ever been to Oakland, Vince?
No, I haven't. I actually went to the first game here against the Oakland Raiders with Tennessee. Ended up losing, but yeah, their fans are pretty interesting. They all decked out in black and silver, wearing masks. Looked like a Halloween party.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. They being a Lions fan, donning my Lions colors, I wasn't really harassed. They were more shocked to see a fan of Detroit than not. So they were nice to me. They talked to me. knowing that we both kind of suffered years of,
years of
bad
that type
football
of beating.
like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a house in Oakland, which
do you?
which I do. With all the black, it's easy for me to be seen. So I feel like I'm the only person there. I feel like I'm on my own island there, just because I apparently my skin is so white. I deter the sun's rays, so it's. I feel like I'm on my own personal island in California. But I feel are they're getting a new stadium built for themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, they're actually going to be moving to Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
They're going to be the Las Vegas Raiders with John Gruden as the coach.
And Derek Carr back on course. They could prove to be very dangerous.
Right.
But if I was a Raider fan, I would definitely be optimistic about our future having John Gruden come back and coach. He's a very good coach, and he's produced a lot of wins and has won a Super Bowl, so definitely can't miss with that, at least from intelligence and experience standpoint. But that was definitely a good one, Vince. And as you've taken a few of your busts, I must take one now for the Chicago Bears. It's a running back, again out of Texas, 4th overall pick in 2005, Mr. Cedric Benson. 5 years as a starter, 3 seasons in Chicago with just 1,500 yards a year, released after his second DUI arrest by the Bears. Then Benson did go on to have some good seasons, 3 of them with the Cincinnati Bengals, and he did 3 1,000-yard seasons in Cincinnati before retiring from the NFL. Cedric Benson, in my mind, was just our little step, our little hiccup that we had to get through to get to Matt Forte, which again, as I probably have stated before in the pilot episode, Matt Forte was our saving grace. He worked hard, sometimes had flashes of the Walter Payton-esque movement and drive and wanting to play and be the best he could at his position. Benson, I had a lot of faith in Benson. I thought he was going to be great. I hoped, and anyone who gets a high pick like that, and when it's a position you know you need, you're always optimistic about that. You want to be optimistic about high offensive players, especially in the running back position, especially from Chicago, in my opinion, had the greatest running back ever of all time, and I know, Vince, you won't agree with me about this, but Walter Payton was, without a doubt, the GOAT of the NFL for the running back position. And Vince, tell these wonderful people why you disagree with me.
Well, being a Motor City kid myself, I would have to go with, Oklahoma State's own Barry Sanders, even though Barry never won a Super Bowl, wishing that maybe he could have been traded to some place that could have gave him at least a ring. But Barry was something special to watch, just like Walter Payton.
And
we were both blessed with early in our lives with 2 great running backs that, for some reason, our teams now haven't been able to find
those star caliber players.
Definitely.
And it's cost us many years and probably many shots at championships. Luckily enough, the year I was born in 1985, when Mike Ditka helmed the pirate ship and had Crazy Man, Jim McMahon, Walter Payton, Mongo, Steve McMichael, Singletary, all the greats. And we would have repeated if it wasn't for the Packers the following year. And a lot of people don't know this, and I feel like a lot of people should know this, that Green Bay, even then back in 1986 to now, are just a zoo filled of dirty, cheap shot animals. and they only look down on you and talk to you when they know victory is certain, and that's when they throw all their hate and shade at everybody. They are nothing but dirty, cheap shot artists who in 1986, one of their defensive linemen, clearly after the play was over and Jim McMahon was walking to the side of the field, decided to pick him up in a wrestling move and suplexed him so hard to the turf that it broke his shoulder and tore his clavicle bone, making Jim McMahon forced to miss the rest of the season. Now, we lost Buddy Ryan that year. He went on to coach the Philadelphia Eagles, which was a huge blow for our defense and our that famous 4-6 defense. But I feel, and as many of the players have felt in many documentaries that ESPN has done, the players on that team would have repeated in 1986 had it not been for the dirty cheap shot on Jim McMahon by the filthy, disgusting Green Bay Packers. And I will leave it just at that. And with that being said, Vince, let's take it to your last pick here, and down and dirty number 5.
Okay, Chris.
You still with us there?
Oh, yeah, actually I am. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to go with Brady Quinn.
Oh, yeah. Another name in a long list of could have, should have, and probably had been. But anyway, take us on that trip, Vince, please, because that's a ride I'll go on 2 or 3 times just to get the full effect.
Well, Brady Quinn played it. It was actually from the state of Ohio. He grew up a Browns fan. He played college football with Notre Dame.
The Irish.
The Irish, yep. The Irish. He was drafted 2007, round 1, pick 22. He wanted to actually play for the Browns, being from Cleveland. He's actually from Columbus, actually.
Naturally a hometown boy.
Right. He thought himself was going to be picked with the 3rd pick in the draft, but he ended up falling all the way to 22 before they drafted him.
Maybe that was a sign.
Right, could have been. That's possible. He was actually 3rd on the depth chart behind Charlie Fry and Derek Anderson. After a 34-7 defeat in the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 1, Fry was traded to Seattle for a 6th-round pick. Quinn jumped up the second in the Browns depth chart, and then December 30th, 2007, Anderson hurt his pinky and wrist, and he made his final debut against the 49ers.
Oh yes, team with a lot of history there.
Right. He was actually traded to Denver for Peyton Hillis, a 6th-round pick in the 2011 draft, and a conditional late-round pick in 2012. Then he was in 2 seasons with the Browns. He didn't play in any games.
Nuts.
He lost his job to Kyle Orton and Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow, that's a story for a different time, and that's kind of one, it's a conversation you need to have with Jesus Christ in the room, obviously. But
right, of course.
He
went to Kansas City, and then Seattle, then the Jets, and the Rams, and Miami, and now he's
serving nachos.
Right, he's actually doing some charity work for wounded veterans.
Oh well, you can't fault him for that. At least he's making his life an honorable way. Still a good kid. It just so happened that it just didn't work out in the NFL for him. Poor bastard.
That's a crime and punishment for all those who get drafted by the Cleveland Browns.
It's a curse. It really is a curse. And I've heard the NFL is instituting a rule that if you are in fact drafted by the Browns in the first round, they will give you a gun to press against your head and just end it all. Because that's essentially what you're doing if you sign your rookie contract. Which I think is very honorable of Goodell to do that. But again, another story for another time. And with that, we come to our last NFL draft bust. And I think you'll agree with me on this one, Vince. This is a special one. Quarterback out of USC, 5th overall in 2009. Played for the New York Jets. Vince, can you guess who it is?
No, I can't.
Mark Sanchez. The Dirty Sanchez. Played for the New York Jets, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm ashamed to say, last year, with the Chicago Bears in a third string spot. 0 Pro Bowls, 5 seasons as a starter. He went back-to-back conference titles. Not because of him, the team did it in spite of him. He threw 69 interceptions in 4 years in New York. 69 in 4 years. I'm going to do the math on that one. That's almost 15 a year. Can't win with that.
At least you can see he was consistent.
Yeah, it's something. I mean, if you want to look at stats, absolutely, yeah. He just found somebody of the other team and let it go. He began 2017, as I've said, as a Chicago third stringer before going down with a neck injury. He is now a free agent, recently suspended 4 games for violation of performance-enhancing drugs NFL policy. So anyone that picks him up, which obviously he would only be good as a third stringer, he's never going to play anyway if someone needs a backup in a worst case scenario. I mean, the 4 game suspension really isn't going to matter. It's not a Tom Brady suspension. But, I mean, we've all been there. Another name they have for Mr. Sanchez was Mr. Butt Fumble. That'll never go away. That's one of the funniest, most hilarious, ridiculous plays you'll ever see in your life. It's not even a play, it's a blunder. It's just a disaster piece on film. But I feel like that was a good way to end our first top 10 game with Mr. Mark Sanchez, the Dirty Sanchez. But anyway, speaking about NFL and today, the NFL has now instituted a new policy stating that the NFL will fine any player that kneels or sits during the national anthem. Those players that wish to do that may remain in the locker room until the anthem is done. Now, the New York Jets immediately thought it was relevant to share with the world that they will support their team kneeling and sitting going forward as well, believing that every player has that choice, willing to take on any fine that the NFL may put on them for having these actions. Now, I really believe that you're doing this and saying this, and Vince, jump in here on me if you agree or disagree. You're saying this is from a management and coach standpoint to stay relevant and to have people look at your name and have some kind of reaction. You're looking to get a reaction for your team for that team to stay relevant in a division where you end up getting your ass kicked twice a year by arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play this game. Vince, feel free to chime in here. That's my opinion.
Well, I've heard people last year, especially here in Tennessee, that actually gave up their season tickets because the team decides to have players kneel for the anthem. Season ticket holders that have had tickets probably ever since the team actually came here from Houston.
Right.
Showing the franchise that, hey, you can't have my money anymore. Well, and, it's probably just a drop in the bucket, but still, you think if, some of the fans, most of the season ticket holders do this, that's really going to hurt season ticket sales, and half the stadium will be empty because of these players want to go ahead and sit for the anthem.
Right.
And I think it's, they should be penalized for this. You're basically slapping anybody who's ever fought for this country.
Absolutely.
Now, or then in the face, or even especially families that have lost a member from the armed services, either Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, any of those branches of military service.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants to go to a game on a Sunday afternoon, have a good time, eat, have a few beers, talk football, get away from a week of busy work and stress, and then they come to a game where their own players that are American, most of them are, and they show disrespect to the country they live in.
And then that's absolutely my feeling about the whole thing. But it's not about, they don't see it as being disrespectful. They're choosing to do it and call it what it is. It's a different. Most of the players who kneel are a different nationality other than Caucasian or European immigrants, as our families were. But the minorities that are doing this they say they're not doing it to be disrespectful. They're doing it to bring their race's value of life to light, and that these races are getting walked over, killed for no reason, not giving proper attention or help. And you being a pro athlete, kneeling and disrespecting people is not bringing light or any help to your nationality, I'm sorry to say, but it's making you look like a fool. And it's only hurting your nationality because it's very clear who it is. The cameras.
That's how they feel. They need to donate money towards their causes that they want to fight for. Don't sit in and kneel. Do something more proactive to show that you actually care.
Right.
And you're a millionaire sitting taking a knee where you could use at least part of your salary, or not even all of it, and put it towards something to better the way of life of your people.
Right. Absolutely. But we'll see what happens. I mean, other horrible teams like the Jets may do this too to get attention, as the New York Jets have done today on NFL.com and on ESPN.com. But I think this is just ridiculous. You're clearly just doing this to get attention, saying curse words almost to bring yourself attention in middle school. And it has nothing to do with you wanting to support the cause or support your players' point of views. You're just doing it to be, and I'm sorry to say this, you're doing it to be an asshole. And that's exactly what you're doing, and that's exactly how the NFL looks at you. You're the Jets, you finish constantly last in the AFC East, and you do things like this and you say things like this because you want to bring attention to yourself, and it's bringing attention to you in the wrong way. There are so many other things you could do. Community projects, player benefits, so on and so forth. And I'm not saying the team doesn't do this already in New York, but I mean, look at the Giants and the Bills. You're all a laughingstock, rightfully so, and you do this, and it only furthers the opinion that you're a joke. You do this, you say things like this to piss people off, and that's exactly what they're going to do. The owner and the GM need to take a strong look at themselves. saving a bunch of millionaires' opinions about their race is not going to help your ball club be taken seriously, and right now you're not. None of the teams in New York are a legitimate threat to anyone in their division right now. So enjoy staying at the bottom, and talk about teams that want to win titles and you're committed to winning championships, conference championships, division championships, and you do this. If you were that committed to winning and wanting to be a champion, you wouldn't be focused, your primary focus, the day that the league releases this mandate, and you come out with this and you say it to piss people off, to get attention. I'm sorry, Jets fans, and to Jets management and their players if they're going to get butthurt over this, but go ahead, do it. Welcome the fines, as you stated publicly today, that you'll accept the fines mandated by the NFL. And I know this is a pretty far off deal. New York Jets fans have lost a ton of season ticket holders because they refuse to get any better. But you're a laughingstock, you're a joke, and even when Brady's gone, you're still going to be a joke because no one wants to play for your ball club. I'm ashamed that Brandon Marshall and Matt Forte, formerly of the Chicago Bears, had to play for your sickening display of a franchise. You're a joke. Shut the hell up and play football like you're meant to do. This is not a social media game. It's not about who's popular or whose feelings are going to get hurt because their race isn't recognized. I will tell you this. All lives matter. It doesn't matter race. It doesn't matter specific heritage. All lives matter. Get over it. You taking a knee and sitting your punk ass down during a national anthem that I served in the military for, it's a joke. You spit in my face and you spit in every other veteran's face that protected this country, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, all of these things, Desert Storm. You spit in my face and you spit in theirs. And I piss all over you for being assholes. You should be stripped of your money, stripped of your contracts, and they should sell your damn team to Canada. Or you should be the first European team because they need to put you as far the hell away from us as possible. You're sickening, you're disgusting, and I think you all will burn in hell for what you're doing. And that's the last I'm going to say about it because it'll just make me more angry. But moving on to NHL heating up here. To start this conversation in the few moments we have left, a situation that's very special to me. Finnish netminder Antti Niemi has agreed to a 1-year deal, one-way contract with Montreal for $950,000. He would have become a free agent on July 1st. In 19 games in 2007. He went 7-5-4 with a 2.45 goals against average, and we all know that's not great. He won games, which is important, one more than he lost. He also played for Pittsburgh in Florida last season, finishing 0-4 in 5 starts. Not good at all. In 24 games, he was 7-9-4 with 3.12 goals against average, which is just awful. Not what I remember from him playing with the Blackhawks. He is a 2-time All-Star. He's played in 447 career games with Chicago, San Jose, Dallas, Florida, Pittsburgh, and now finally in Montreal. He is 234 and 134 with 2.52 goals against average, which to me sounds pretty darn good. He won a title, as I said, with Chicago, which means the world to me. He won the first title that I was old enough to grasp and understand in 2010, starting in 22 games in the playoffs and finishing 16-6, amazing, with a 2.63 goals against average. I'm just happy he's getting picked up with Montreal for one more year. He may not start, which is fine, but I'll always have love for Antti Niemi and for what he did for the city of Chicago in goal. Me not being a Corey Crawford fan at all whatsoever, and I still don't understand why they're keeping him under contract. A lot of people will fight me over saying that, but that's just the way I feel. I'm just not a Corey Crawford fan. I was never a fan of his, and I understand that there's salary cap reasons, so on and so forth, that made us have to cut Niemi, which I could go on a rant and rave about that, about how good teams are chopped down The salary cap is in place to keep everybody competitive and not have one team run the table for a decade or two. I understand that you want to make it more fair, but I feel and Nashville's going to feel this coming up probably this year, I think, and they're going to finally feel what it feels like to have the league cut you down at the knees, to make you worse, and force you to trade away players and cut contracts. And a lot of players don't like that. They'll jump ship to the next team they think is hot so they can make a run at a title, because clearly they're not going to win one here. But Vince, please speak to that a little bit before we jump on to the finals. Is that how you see it at all, about how the salary cap works against good teams, with your team being so awesome in the 90s?
Right. Yeah, I mean, with the salary cap, it's hurt a lot. With me, it's mostly just with the Red Wings, it's mostly they don't go for a full rebuild. It seems like they wait around and try to make it to the playoffs, maybe get bounced out in the first round. But it seems like they don't bring up the young talent when it looks like it's ready. The new group of Red Wings to take over. Yeah, they'll take their lumps, but at least they can see what they have at the professional level. So it's been tough, being able to having to watch the team go through
It's almost a punishment, is it not?
It is, but every team does go through it as bad as it is.
It's
Tigers,
just, yeah.
this baseball team is going through that now. They had their shots, their window's closed, so they have to rebuild. So it's been tough having to watch, especially the Red Wings, seeing them go through a lot of the older players retire that were good, and then you bring up the young talent. Especially with the drafts, you never know what you're going to get. You may get a superstar, you may get a bust. You never know how the chips will fall in their careers, and basically you just hope for the best. You just go play through the pain of having to watch it, and just hope for the best.
Right. I'm very glad that you agree with me on that, so I don't feel like I'm the only person who feels that way about the salary cap. But we'll move on to brighter days. History was made this last weekend with the Las Vegas Golden Knights being the first expansion team in NHL history to make it to the Stanley Cup final in the league's history, which is a huge deal. Giving them a round of applause. Very nice. Apparently they cherry-picked in the right way. And Vince, let me throw this out to you. Marc-Andre Fleury at this moment is sporting 1.68 goals against average, which is phenomenal. 15 games he's played in, he's 12-3. Washington right now in the Game 7 that's going on right now between Washington and Tampa Bay. Washington leads with goals. Ovechkin has 11 goals and 10 assists. Evgeny Kuznetsov has 11 goals and 12 assists. And then the Vegas leader, who is third, and I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, it's Jonathan Marchessault, with 8 goals and 10 assists. But my question here, Vince, to you is, no matter who wins tonight between the Lightning and the Capitals, can either Eastern team match Vegas' speed, their hitting, their defense, and their goaltending enough to not make it a flush in the finals?
I see how you went there saying flush, especially with being Vegas and have to do with sports betting and betting and gambling all together. I enjoyed that.
I'm glad you did. I know you'd get it.
The way that Fleury is playing, I've always had my doubts with him being a Pittsburgh Penguin and me not caring for the Penguins, but
everyone's had their doubts about him at some point.
Yeah, that's what you need in the playoffs. You need to ride a hot goaltender. No one's hotter than him right now. They're playing well in front of him. letting him see the puck. As you said, the defense is playing great. They're forechecking, they're hitting every chance they get. They're playing hockey the right way.
Absolutely. And that comes from good management and good training and good practice. I mean, like I said, Caps and Tampa Bay right now are playing Game 7. While Las Vegas has been off since Monday. And if I've heard correctly, the Stanley Cup Finals will start next Monday. And that will be that. If that's the case, that gives the Eastern team, whoever it may be after tonight, that gives them 4 days off compared to Las Vegas's 6 days off. So Vince, from someone who's played the game more than I have a little bit here, do days off help, or do they in the end hurt you from not? I know they're practicing, that's one thing, but having that many, I mean, it's only 2 more days than whoever wins will have, but I mean, 2 days could mean a lot, or it could mean a lot less. So I mean, I'd love to get your take on that, because I know everybody has a different opinion on days off and rest and all of that.
Well, Vegas will have at least a little bit of rink rust, just because they haven't played truly competitive since they ousted the Jets in 5.
Right.
But it'll take them a little time to get ready, especially them being an expansion team. But there's a few players that won Stanley Cups as Fleury. So most of the young kids will depend on some of the veterans that have been in the situation. It may just be Fleury, but at least they have someone they can confide in, knowing that let him lead the charge in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Right. Well, it'll be very interesting to see if in fact the NHL, the Stanley Cup Finals do actually start on Monday. That's just what I've heard. The NHL wants to give both teams a little bit of rest so that the finals are even keeled, and it's coming down and it's going to be a good finals, which usually the NHL delivers. So I don't have a foot in either camp on this. I'd like to see Vegas do it. On the other hand, Washington and Tampa been pushing so hard, but it seems to me that the Western teams are just built Ford tough, I guess. It's the best way I can say it. But
right.
It should be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens tonight, and see what happens around the league. So, but the executives here are giving me the light, telling it's time for us to ride off into the sunset here. Vince, any parting words for all the listeners and fans out there?
No, just stay strong, be good to each other, and everybody have a happy Memorial Day.
And just like Yoda said in Star Wars, there is no try. Do or do not. Thank you for tuning in. We love the likes. We love the comments. If you feel we went wrong with the top 10, hit us back. Let us know what you think. We'll be back next week with lots more information, lots more laughs, and maybe we'll get the executives out here so we can have some more fun. But anyway, love each other. Don't text and drive. And thank you, everyone, again, for viewing and subscribing. Keep the comments coming. Love you all. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again. And good night from the Chicago Kid and the Michigan Man and the sports talk that we share together. Good night. We love you.